with it. The
All
judge, it
rise
must be
for
for the
pledge.
judges.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Alvarez.
Here.
Councilman Cullen.
Here.
Councilwoman Eckhart.
Here.
Councilwoman Hudak. Here. Supervisor Hen.
Here. Notations, the exits in the front and the rear. Any electronic device, please put it on vibrate. We opened with an executive session. No decisions were reached. I'm making a motion to come out of executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. First item on the agenda is a work session for Tax and Limousine Commission formation request by Putnam County. I see we have Mr. Castellano and Mr. Gross. Are you gentlemen come one at a time to speak or together?
I don't
What
think
is it?
Roger's here, is he?
Yeah.
No, he's in the back. Yeah, I don't know if he's,
Oh, there he is, I see him now.
Oh, well, I don't want to speak for Roger, but I will be here to answer any questions you might have. Certainly, we're in the beginning stages of the whole process, and the letter went out.
The mic,
What am I?
please.
Identify yourself.
I'm Joseph Castellano, and Roger Gross is here also from the Putnam County Legislature. The Rules Committee sent out letters to all the municipalities in Putnam County discussing the possibility of creating a taxi and limousine commission. Certainly, it's been spoken about before, about, I think it was 2006,
2001.
2001. Okay.
Guess who the only no vote was?
No, I read the thing, and I understand why you voted no, and I understand why Governor Pataki at the time voted against it. I know Senator Ball brought it up, I believe, in 2006 again,
Yeah.
but it went nowhere. But certainly, the municipalities in Putnam County outside of the village of Brewster do not have regulations on the taxi and limousine businesses, anyway. So it's in Rules Committee now, and Tony Anastasio, the chairman of Rules, sent out a letter to all the municipalities to get your feedback to see what you guys want to do. Heard a couple of towns get back to us already, so we're in the beginning of the process, and we look forward to hearing what you guys have to say about it. Personally, I think it seems to be appropriate that it needs to be done. It can be done at the county level, but there's a lot of stuff that we need to work out, and like I said, we're in the beginning processes of it. I think it's very important that the people who drive these taxis and limousines are licensed, insured, and are good citizens in that aspect. So we're just here to hear what you guys have to say, and if you have any questions, certainly I'll try to help answer.
I would just add that I know Ruth's here with the Carmel Taxi, and she has some input, I think, for this issue. I think that Consumer Affairs could probably get involved in giving out stickers and inspections, possibly. Again, there is some support for that, but I know the people I speak with in the legislature do not want to create another bureaucracy where there's a commissioner of taxi and limousine, and you have an office and hiring people. We want to keep it at a low key that would respect home rule and just get the job done with inspections, proper driver's licenses, and car inspections as well as insurance, those kinds of things. So, but it's open for discussion. That's where we are. So.
Okay, now they did ask just for a letter, and I was prepared not to write a letter, but put forward a resolution this evening to see if the board wanted to support such. But once I heard that there were going to be people come to speak to it, I made it an agenda item, so to speak, for discussion, and then the resolution will come forward at the next meeting. We'll vote on it at that point in time.
and I think what happened from 2001, I guess, what changed recently is that the New York City and Westchester County created taxi and limousine commissions. And for a cab or a taxi, from what I understand, to take someone to one of the New York City airports or Westchester County Airport, they have to have a taxi and limousine commission license plate. If they don't have the license plate, they won't be allowed to pick up or maybe pick up a passenger, and they will also receive a heavy fine. So what is happening is the taxi companies in Putnam County are forced to give their money to Westchester County, such as Anna's Limo in Patterson, because I've seen them. They have Westchester County plates, and I never understood why a limo company from Putnam County had Westchester taxi and limousine plates until I found out what the issue is. So there's a lot of money that our businesses are forced to give to Westchester, which we could keep in-house. And then hopefully there'd be a agreement with our taxi and limousine commission so that they could then go to the New York City airports. And then also the fact is the drivers would have background checks and fingerprinted, which currently isn't happening now if they're in Putnam County. So I don't know if anyone else wants to speak about it or why they,
Well, what do you, what, from a county perspective, is the positive aspects of having this kind of taxi and limousine? I think, Joe, you just spoke to a couple there.
Well, you know, we want to make sure that people are properly licensed, and, you know, New York State had that issue a couple years ago where if you don't have a social security card, you can't get a driver's license. Well, you can get a driver's license in other states in this country. And we want to know who we're hiring and who's picking us up, who's driving us around. And, you know, you might not take a taxi cab, but you're on the road with them. You want to make sure they're responsible people, they have background checks, they have drug checks, they're fully insured. So if you do get into an accident with them, you know, that you have that. One of the things I've heard from people is the fact that you can get into a cab and you're basically, you know, negotiating a rate. I think this is something that needs to be overseen. I mean, everybody's got an iPhone or a smartphone where you can get into a cab now and there should be a rate. And you know, even if you're getting in Carmel and you have to go to Brewster, you know, it should be spelled out before the taxi cab unit starts going. But this is stuff that we need to regulate that's not been done in Putnam County. So, you know.
Okay, what is then, on the flip side, what's the negative aspects, if any, that you perceive or the county has perceived regarding the creation of such a commission?
Well, we're expanding government, but I think we're doing it for the right reasons in this case. That would be the only negative thing. I think we want to make sure that whoever gets into a cab in Putnam County is in a safe vehicle, and we've done our background checks. And I think we can, like Roger mentioned, we can do it through consumer protection. At least that's the initial plan. I mean, this is a big process that we're going to go through. We have to get approved by the state as well for home rule. There's a lot of things going on, and it's going to change as we go along, but we hope everybody comes to the meetings and states their point of view. But I think we're going to develop a business that's going to be safer than the one that's currently established. And, you know, within our own town, the Village of Brewster has had a law for quite some time. But, you know, people wind up falling asleep on that train. They're up in the town of Southeast train station, taking a cab back down to Westchester. We want to make sure those people that are operating those cabs are licensed, insured, and you know, that's what I believe is the reason why we're doing this.
You know, at this initial stage, has anyone calculated what possibly there would be any revenue to the county, whether, you know, is this going to be something that is a positive revenue,
I don't
negative?
I don't think we've looked at the revenue
Okay.
aspect of it. I don't think there's going to be one, because it's going to be more work for us, but I think it's something that needs to be done. So we're not looking at it as something that's going to drive our revenue. I don't think that's going to be the issue. I mean, you know, we just want to make sure it's a safe industry.
I would just add, as Joe said, safety, I think, is number one. And also, when you have, like Carmel Taxi is very ethical. They go through the licensing, they have the inspections, their cars are in good shape. And they're dealing with unfair competition with someone that just puts Joe's or Mike's taxi on the side of his car and starts picking up people. So they bring some continuity to the problem. But I do want to emphasize, as Joe said, we don't want to create another bureaucracy. Handle it with consumer affairs. There may be a minimal cost for a sticker or some kind of a permit to go on your vehicle. And that would be the size of it, at least as far as I'm concerned. And there is support to do it in that low key.
And Westchester, Bob, has,
they have a taxi and limousine commission, and basically in the past, all the towns and villages had their own, a lot of them around the railroad tracks had their own local ordinances. And from what I understand, they basically, most of the municipalities did away with their ordinances, and now the county runs the whole system. But all we're doing, as the town board is saying, we currently don't regulate cabs, and we don't have a problem if Putnam County does it. And that's all we're doing. And whatever happens with Putnam, if they get the approval from the legislator and the governor, so be it. But we're not, as of right now, Southeast is not doing anything with regulating cabs.
Another point to point out is I think Putnam County can enforce it with the sheriff's department, where the town does not have that,
Right.
and would have to contract out to do that, just to monitor. So whether you guys grow with the commission or we do, I think the right place to do it is with Putnam County. But again, it's a long process, we're in the beginning stages, I don't think anybody's made up their mind yet, but I think it's something that needs to be investigated, and
Well, quite frankly, I don't envision, I don't know about I obviously can't speak for the rest of the board, but it sounds like a good thing, and I don't believe the town would be, quite frankly, I wouldn't push right now for a taxi and limousine commission in Southeast, so.
And it wouldn't make sense if Southeast had a taxi and limousine commission, if Patterson did, and that means anyone operating would have to get licenses from all the municipalities. So this way, it's one license for the whole county.
Now, when I was on the you want to go first? Go ahead.
I'm going to sound like a Republican, but I do have a problem.
Wait, the building's shaking. No, I'm sorry.
It's an earthquake.
Hold on, dear. I do think it's adding another layer of government. I really, especially because it's not broken right now, that I can see, or that I hear from, I don't hear from constituents that there's a problem. Now, if you do, you do. And I know the wheels of government grind slowly, but this seems like push really fast. The village, I think, has a good system. And I think, and they do have enforcement, which we wouldn't have anyhow. Could the sheriffs do it? Sure. But how effective is our enforcement going to be? So, and when you said something like, hopefully Westchester and New York City will recognize Putnam County as having this, but do we know that yet? I mean, is that?
first off, I didn't say that, but I believe they will. I mean, they've done it with the other municipalities, and I don't see a reason why they wouldn't
Right.
recognize the Putnam County Taxi and Limousine Commission.
But I do see this morphing into, at first, you know, it stays at, whether it's Consumer Affairs or wherever, and then suddenly someone's daughter or son gets a lower paying job to help manage this, and then suddenly we have a commission, not suddenly, it'll be over several years, but there'll be a commissioner. So right now, I'm not convinced this is something we need. So I'm at present not very, nor do I think, I mean, I'm very much for home rule on this as well. If it was something I think we needed, I would actually prefer that it stay closest to the town. I think the town does a really good job, and it's closer to home and easier to monitor. So that's just my feeling. I'm clearly probably, as usual, in the minority on the board. But.
Okay, so I'll go. Can you go with the mic, please? Rick? You calling for a cab?
If I may, as you know, I've been the judge in the Village of Brewster for the past 23, 24 years. And within the last decade, we have a regulation involving taxis. And I cannot speak for the rest of the county, but I will tell you based upon experience, unfortunately, there have been times when tickets have been written because, and that, not a lot, but you know, there have been instances where tickets were written for unlicensed drivers. They were not licensed and they were driving a cab. Not having the requisite permits. And the only concern I have, and that's just for your own edification and information, and it's an enforcement issue, and the village tries very hard to try to regulate as best as it can. I don't know what happens up at the Southeast train station or somewhere else. I don't know what regulation. At least in the village, you know, there are times when tickets are written, fines are imposed. For the most part, I think that the taxi companies try to comply as best as they can. But there are issues and there are problems. So my only observation would be that, you know, somebody should take a look at this, because the last thing in the world you want to do is have somebody in a cab and it's an unlicensed driver, or there's no insurance, and I don't know who's regulating that outside of the Village of Brewster. So just something to think about.
Well, Joe, before the county goes, no, I'm going to speak now. The first municipality you should check with is the Village of Brewster, because it's my understanding, unless all municipalities sign off on this, it doesn't take place. Is that true?
Not to my knowledge. I think an individual municipality could have their own regulations, but again, we're in the beginning stages of this, and we haven't vetted all that out yet.
Okay. My understanding of it is it's like all or nothing. In other words, everyone within the county would have to sign off to give the county control.
It's not the case in Westchester County, so I'm not sure if that's the case.
Every municipality in
I think
Westchester?
so. No, if you want to have it, you can have it in municipalities in Westchester. Like, for example, Peekskill, I believe, has one. Mount Kisco has one as well. I mean, she would know actually better than I would, but the individual municipalities in Westchester do have them. They don't have to have one, and if they don't have one, it's overseen by the county. So the Village of Brewster could possibly keep theirs if they choose to, or if they want to consolidate with us, they can. But again, we're at the beginning stages, and we don't have all the answers yet, but that's why we're here, and we hope you guys come to our meetings, and
And all you're looking for us to say
we'd like to see some
is,
support.
right, that
They want
we
to-
support it, we don't have our own,
Certainly,
know.
if the towns don't want it,
Right.
the towns could all do their own commissions if they like, and we wouldn't have to do it, and that's fine. And that was the case in 2001 when Governor Pataki vetoed it, and again when Senator Ball brought it up, but no one's done it. So here we are trying to step in and try to do the right thing, and try to regulate this business, which seems to need some regulation.
which, but if that was done at the town level, then you would have, yeah, but you would have to, as a taxi driver, you would have to have a permit from every town that you went in.
And yeah,
Which
a lot of
is-
businesses
Well,
still
not
have-
to, as I understand it, not to drop off, but to pick
Well,
up,
to
is that
pick up,
correct?
like, maybe,
well, again, I'll
On
defer to
what-
the taxi expert.
yeah, maybe,
I'm told,
Come up to the, ma'am, if you're going to speak, just come to the mic, please.
if you just introduce yourself, so everyone at home.
Sure,
knows
my
you.
name is Ruth Ayala. I'm just referring back to what Westchester does, what I have a Westchester TLC permit. Basically, with my permit, I can pick up anywhere in Westchester County. I can pick you up here in Putnam County and bring you to the Westchester County Airport with no problem. I can pick up somebody in Somers and bring them to Westchester with no problem. However, I cannot pick up somebody at the Mount Kisco train station and drop them off at the Mount Kisco Hospital. That will be against the Mount Kisco municipalities. If you create something, you can probably say, if you want to operate within the county, pick up and drop off within the county, then you could be required to get a county permit. But if it's like another business in Westchester County, picking up somebody from Kennedy, bringing here, then, if they have another permit, you can probably, honor that. Let's say if somebody has a Westchester TLC bringing into Putnam County, the same thing. If they honor Putnam, then we can probably honor theirs.
Now, how much money do you have to pay Westchester County to have your vehicles licensed? and-
I pay $600 as a base. I pay $300 per vehicle, and
Annually?
Annually, yes. And each driver pays $135. I have 15 vehicles, and I have 20 drivers. So it's up. I think just out of the top of my head, it's like about $7,500 a year
That you pay Westchester?
that I pay Westchester.
And what is the name of your company?
Carmel Taxi and Car Service.
Very good.
And if we had our own commission, that money would stay in Putnam County?
Exactly. It will stay in Putnam.
If it's
in Putnam
reciprocal.
County.
If it's reciprocal?
We don't know that it
Yes,
is.
that's the whole thing. It'd be
Right.
great if this is that way.
So there would be reciprocity, basically. that
We
that-
don't
Well,
know that.
we-
No
We don't know
guarantee.
that. It'll be
No.
something that I guess somebody will have to work with them.
I mean, I would hope Putnam would get a commitment from Westchester that there would be.
Again, we're at the
Right.
early stages.
No, right,
but
yep.
I would assume.
And the same is true in New York City?
Yes,
for-
Westchester, New York City will honor Westchester's permit as long as we're picking from Westchester, dropping off in New York City. We cannot pick up in like Queens and the Bronx and drop off. I can't do pickups within New York City.
But you can pick up in the
I
Bronx?
can bring somebody back.
You
yes.
can-
But you can bring somebody back from the Bronx
Yes,
to up here?
to here.
Good.
I just can't do business within New York City.
But you can drop off at airports even though?
Yes.
And what, is that a New York City permit?
No, with the Westchester, they have a reciprocate
Okay,
with New York City TLC. So
Okay.
as long as we are dropping off or picking up from there, coming out of the city.
okay.
And that's the reciprocity aspect?
Right.
Gotcha, okay.
Okay, going back into 2001, when the legislature was thinking about creating a taxi limousine, and it was passed by the legislature and got the governor's desk, we spoke about, and failed. I spoke to the owner of Carmel Taxi, that was back in 2001. Have you taken it over since 2001?
I've,
Or were you?
I started Carmel Taxi and Car Service back in 2007.
Okay, so whoever had, there was a Carmel Taxi and another one in 2001.
I don't think it's a Carmel Taxi. I know it used to be Brookside Taxi.
Okay. I can't think of the gentleman's name. Any rate, at the time the county was considering it, there was not one taxi or limousine company in Putnam County that was seeking this. The county executive at the time wanted this because Westchester County wanted us, Rockland County, to form kind of a coalition so Westchester could get their licensing through New York City, which wanted no part of what they're currently doing. At the time, I said that New York City would never do it, but guess what? They did do it. Westchester eventually did get reciprocal licensing. Now, we keep talking about reciprocal licensing. Now, we've been trying to get reciprocal licensing with Westchester County for plumbing. Back in 1957, Putnam County was the first licensed plumbing law in New York State, back in 57. And to this day, we don't have reciprocal licensing with Westchester County. Earlier, Patterson and Kent do have something on the books, okay, as far as taxi limousines, okay? It's not big, there's no big enforcement, they do have something on the books. The Village of Brewster has the biggest. I hear in a lot of things tonight, and you know, in Putnam County, you know, everything goes to consumer affairs. In the old days, consumer affairs, it's great, and then it was very good, okay? However, it's now the Department of Consumer Affairs, Weights and Measures, Trades Licensing, and Registration. So to put this burden on a department in the county, which I believe is already overburdened, because people don't really know what they do. I mean, I just mentioned they had the trades licensing. They got the electrical law, the plumbing law, home improvement law. The manpower there is minimal. That department is responsible to do all the gas stations, check on, you know, the gas to make sure it's a proper octane, given the exact measurements. They go around to every delicatessen, every supermarket, do the tear weights on the machines, they seal them. They're, you know, responsible for item pricing. So to put another burden onto that department, it's going to be huge. Getting fingerprinting, I mean, the best person to do that, of course, would be the Sheriff's Department. And, you know, it's manpower costs there. It gets to be a bunch. I understand what everyone's trying to do. The thing that bothers me, though, is even, you know, all the good guys, you have a good business and you try to go by the book every time you do it, and another gentleman, everyone does it. But there's a few out there, I'll call them the bad guys. Well, the bad guys are always going to get away with it, because you know what? They don't care about laws, they're going to continue what they're doing. Now, I understand that was one of the suggestions or comments made before, one of the people didn't have a license. Well, geez, they get pulled over by any cop, they can give a ticket, got to have a license.
Right.
And my last understanding, aren't you still required to have a chauffeur's license to drive a taxi?
Yes, you are required to have.
So
a new
any
driver's
cop,
license.
any sheriff, any state police, village can pull over anyone who has the word taxi, ask to see their license. So enforcement is out there already, okay?
Yes.
But
however, it's an incident that just happened last weekend in which I actually called the sheriff because I knew somebody was licensed. They had a Maryland license. They didn't have a New York State license because Maryland doesn't require somebody to have a Social Security. Unfortunately, the police didn't have any codes in the book to issue him a ticket.
Oh, okay. That's going to an nth degree within the law. Now, as far as a safe vehicle, I mean, every vehicle, even out of state, are required to have inspections. Most of them have inspection stickers. You know, the MTA is responsible for all the railroad stations, okay? We have a lot of problems up there with speedings, things of that nature. I heard something about price gouging. Well, if I was in your business, ma'am, I wouldn't want the government to tell me how much I can charge. Because you might have to go, you know, in the city, Westchester County, they deal with cities, okay? Block to block, they get X number. Well, you know what a block is here? It's miles, okay?
Yes.
So it's very difficult. So if I was in your shoes, I wouldn't be so, want the government to intervene as much, especially with pricing aspect of it, because it's just not gonna fly. It may cost you more. Again, you're legal, okay? Everything you do, so it costs you more to do business than an illegal person. And I'll tell you what, even after this law's in place, if it gets into place, there's going to still be a lot of illegal activity.
Yeah, Westchester does not regulate prices. They just regulate the vehicles and the drivers.
I think really what Joe was referencing was the fact that the charges would be displayed, not
Displayed,
necessarily
yes.
that the government would say what the charges were.
So you could still have gouging, but you
Exactly.
have it displayed
But
gouging.
what happens is then, then there's a competitive, if Carmel Taxi is charging X, why would you want to charge X times 2? Because, I think basically that's it. And I agree that, licensing is licensing. You can get pulled over, but one of the aspects is, yes, cars are inspected, but, quite frankly, I wouldn't mind another look-see at, at a car that already had an inspection sticker and, have another set of eyes.
Well, there's also the inspection on the vehicles that go on. I mean, it is known that a lot of taxi cab vehicles are retired police cars. And I know that down in Mount Kisco and Bedford, part of the inspection is to make sure that those back doors open. So, that is important, to making sure that those seatbelts are working, making sure that it's a 4-door vehicle instead of a 2-door. So
And that insurance is in effect.
and of course, the insurance, yes, because, you cannot pick up a person with regular passenger plates with regular insurance from Allstate or Progressive. You need to have special insurance. And of course, that costs a lot more money than regular insurance.
Does anyone here this evening know how many taxi companies we have in the town of Southeast?
In the town of Southeast,
Taxi companies, not vehicles, but companies.
and I know for a fact, if you are at Southeast, 2 o'clock in the morning, you got people from Pauling Taxi waiting around to get lucky there.
Okay.
You have taxi cabs that have no names on their side doors.
Okay,
right now.
but they come in from Connecticut and pick up as well. So anything that we do here in Putnam County is going to affect other counties. Now it's, going to be Dutchess County. I'm not going to worry about that much. And of course, people come in from Connecticut. It just gets to be something of an issue. Now, I did go online just for the heck of it to see how well, again, we're a very small county. Again, how many limousine companies we have? Most of the limousine companies, I didn't know of many taxis. You say you're a taxi company, you are a TLC with the TLC plates. Almost, not all, but many of the limousine companies in this area have plates because they're going to Westchester Airport. They've been ticketed numerous times, and it was cheaper to sign up with the law than get the ticket. So they signed up, of course, reluctantly. Yeah, you get banged down there 2 times, you might as well sign up and become legal, and that's what they've done. Now, down in Westchester County, they're making a profit on it, believe it or not. I went on their line, and last year it cost them $1.390343 million in expenses, and they actually brought in $2.1 million. They made around $750,000. Now, those kind of numbers, if Putnam is even considering, and they're not going to get millions. I mean, anything that happens in Westchester County, I always divide it by 10, okay? Because that's about what the ratio is. We're about 1/10 their size, everything is 1/10. So if it costs them $1.4 million or $1.3 million to run the operation, it's going to cost us about $130,000. So again, whatever you do, just go into the cost of it because it may not be cost effective. And it is better, I mean, with a reciprocal licensing, it's better to let Westchester, but you get a service enforcement in Westchester, but of course you get nothing by being up here because it's out of it. And that's why one of the reasons you might want to join, but the enforcement would have to be done by our police departments, okay? And much of it can be done. So, at any rate, we will put this on the agenda the next time for a vote. And then I'm just going to double check. I just wish you would check and see if, as long as the village is not have to be a part of it, it would probably have a good chance of flying. But if you need all the municipalities to vote in favor of, I don't know if they're would sign on to it.
And Joe, do you know how Uber affects any of this at all? Have we looked into that?
I'm gonna look into it. Listen, this is.
I was on their website, and so I'm curious.
I have, Bill Knoll has some more research on that.
What was the question?
Uber.
The app,
Oh.
that's
Yeah.
the.
Uber?
the-
They're not on yet. They're coming.
No, we were
My
told.
name is Bill Knoll with the Putnam County Chamber of Commerce. I also sat on the Putnam County Transportation Advisory Council. And yes, recently Uber and Lyft had, and other companies met with the insurance companies in New York State and the New York State Insurance to find out how to get insurance for their transportation network corporations, which is what those companies are. Because right now, they're only allowed to operate in New York City under New York City's Taxi and Limousine Commission regulations. And they want to expand to the entire state. And it's become a real issue. The information I got basically from, again, it was a roundtable put together with the legislatures, the insurance commissioner, and the people from the Business Council of New York State. And they basically came up with, we don't know where to go yet because they're not sure how to expand it and let the, the regulations of Uber and stuff like that. But moving into the 21st century, you're going to find more and more people looking to pay for things. One of the big advantages of this Uber trend and stuff is to be able to get into a cab and know that you're going to go from point A to point B on a charge that's already been established, and it's taken care of on your credit card, so there's no cash exchange or anything like that. And a lot of people feel more comfortable with that. So as we go into a more cashless society, I mean, that's one of the issues that have to be taken into consideration. And again, I just point out that what we're asking for tonight is the permission to ask the state to allow us to look into this, is basically what we're really looking to do. And
Are you going to come back, if the state says yes, then you're going to come back and get actual permission?
Then, at that point, then we have to go through the whole process of finding out exactly how we're going to do this. We've had some initial discussions. I talked with the Commissioner of Consumer Affairs and the Police Department, and we're thinking of something more along the lines of a hybrid, using the legislation to spread out the responsibility for, enforcement would go to the Sheriff's Department, for instance. Some of the initial checking would go to the Department of Consumer Affairs. Yes, there might be some expansion there. It would be based on, our understanding as revenue neutral as possible, so that the income that we get for any licensing and things like that would cover the costs of whatever the inspections, fingerprinting, and things like that are. Fines and stuff like that, would be based on how the world reacts to those kinds of regulations.
Usually reciprocal licensing, especially with Westchester County, has to be an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, so to speak. In other words, whatever the regulation is, our regulation had to be the same. That would make it more difficult, I think, for us as well.
Well, obviously there would be some negotiations on there. I'll tell you that Rockland County went through the process of getting the initial step in getting the allowance from the state to go ahead and look into this. They did that about 1.5 years ago, and they're still trying to figure out exactly how to put it together the best.
Okay, so it's not happening
it's not something that happens. It's not something that happens immediately, but it's something that we need to get the process started. And again, I think coming into the 21st century, there's a lot of things that are in play now that we have to be flexible enough to take care of.
Okay. Anyone else from the public? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
It'll be on the agenda next month.
Great.
Okay, motion to go into regular meeting portion of the agenda?
Second.
Wait, is that what that was? Second. Okay. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Number 1, ARB recommendation, Fortune Ridge Horse Barn. I gave one there in the middle. You can open the plans here. Now therefore it be resolved that the town board hereby accepts and approves the report of the Architectural Review Board dated November 18, 2015, a copy of which is annexed hereto and made part hereof in connection with the application of Fortune Ridge, and that such report shall be incorporated in any final site plan subsequently reviewed by the planning board. So moved for discussion.
Second.
Okay. Rick, would you like to make anything? This is pretty straightforward. It's been out there
But
a
this is
while.
just on the recommendation.
Yes.
The architectural review board reviewed it, approved it. It's a $2 million barn. It's a good tax rateable, doesn't generate any school children.
Good.
Is this going to be used by only the people who live at Fortune Ridge, or has that changed? I haven't kept up with that.
My recollection, the last discussion we had was that it was limited to the residents of Fortune Ridge, the subdivision of that property, of the property. Is that correct? we had hoped that our next door, we could have been neighborly with our next door neighbor, but the planning board was not very happy about that, so.
And we're only here tonight to approve the ARB
Right.
recommendation.
No, I know.
That other part will come through the planning board itself.
Correct.
Any questions on the board? Nice plan.
Thank you.
And I'm going to abstain, just so you know.
Why, because you own a horse?
No. Yes, they said no. No,
You're going to abstain for the record?
yes, I think the plans are very nice, but I'm going to abstain because I don't agree with the concept of this piece being on open space, so I'm happier abstaining on this.
Okay.
All right?
All in favor with, otherwise?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
And one abstention for the reason stated for the record. Not sure it's the official 100% reason, but we'll allow it.
Thank you.
Number two. Thank you. Thank you. Number two is a bond release for Quinn DeBellis Properties. It's a release of the performance bond. Resolved that the performance security post by Quinn DeBellis in the amount of $19,000 in connection with the Quinn DeBellis subdivision application located at 198 and 210 Turk Hill Road, Southeast, tax map number 67.1-49 and 67.1-51.3 is hereby released and may be canceled by issuing institution, and be further resolved that the town clerk is authorized to return any and all original bond deposits, letters of credit, or other indicia of security originally posted in connection with this project to the developer, and be further resolved that the town clerk is hereby directed to forward a certified copy of this resolution to the planning board secretary, the town building inspector, and to the property owner forthwith. So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Number three, it's a resolution for Gasland Petroleum, establish a performance bond. Now therefore be resolved that the town bond, that the bond amount shall be established for the project set forth below. Project name, Gasland Petroleum, Inc. Bond amount for site improvements, $407,300. And be further resolved that the erosion sediment be $13,500. And resolved that the copy of this resolution shall be transmitted by the town clerk to the planning board secretary and building inspector forthwith. So moved.
I'll second it.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Number four, it's a resolution, it's the East of the Hudson Watershed Commission, Operation and Maintenance Stormwater Retrofit Projects. Let me just give you a quick rundown of what this is all about. As you know, about 5 years ago, there's a creation of the East of Hudson Watershed. The counties were maintaining the monies, controlling the developments and projects that were approved. It was formed out into all the 19 municipalities, which is, we are one of, okay? I attend most of the meetings. There's a, state requires us to remove so much phosphorus within a certain amount of time. Well, we have one project down by Lakeview. I don't know if any of you have seen it. You know, they cut down the trees and did really, really nice job.
Yep.
Everything was coming off North Bruce Road, coming down. There was a lot of erosion in one person's property that all got fixed. The neighbors really weren't happy to start, but they did a really, really nice job. In the Village of Brewster, down on Marvin Avenue, there's a really big project. Unfortunately, it's gotten overgrown by a bunch, and that's part of what we're doing this evening, is the operation and maintenance of that project. Another one across from the lecture zone field, they did
Railroad
Avenue did another one. So basically, there's, at one point in time, it was $30 million to have to do this. I think we're down to about, I don't want to, $5 to $7 million. But there was never enough money for operation and maintenance. So each town, now, it's a bubble compliance, meaning there's 19 municipalities, and each municipality has to, well, are supposed to contribute toward the bubble. Now, the Village of Brewster has contributed the most because they had a very good project and a lot of phosphorus offset. Last I looked, we were second, if not, we're a close third, and out of the 19 municipalities, there's a lot that really lack behind. We have we have numerous projects up by the school, by, what's the name of the school? Henry Lowe School. Okay, in the back there used to be a swampy area. They did that. So there's area of maintenance. In other words, if you don't maintain these, they just grow back to what Mother Nature put there originally, and it's not quite going to work. So we have to maintain them. So what they decided to do with this schedule that we have attached here, we're going to be given a credit the first year. We're getting, town of Southeast gets a credit of $13,000. we have to commit to $16,473. Now, based on next year, our commitment would be $30,000. The largest commitment I see here is from Somers, it's like $38,000. And the smallest commitment here by anybody looks like the Village of Brewster with $3,427. But when you say, well, why so little? They're also a small municipality. Cortland was bigger, but they only have 2,600. They didn't do a lot, okay? So the bottom line is, this money is put into a pool, and if it's required to be maintained, which it has to, however, if we maintain it ourselves and do what we're supposed to do, our commitment will draw back that money. So that's the only way we could fund this. There was not enough money out there to get it done with the monies that they had, so we're all contributing according to this here, and I don't see the bottom line total. But it's substantial, but it has to be done to do it. So the resolve clause reads, now therefore be resolved that the town board of the town of Southeast that 1, the town of Southeast accepts and agrees to the terms and conditions of the EOHWC O&M policy and authorizes the supervisor to take whatever other actions are required to implement this resolution. Now, I added something. Why is that not on mine?
It's not on mine.
Okay, and the policy and Exhibit A. Can you add that to number 1? So where the town accepts and agrees to the terms and conditions of the EOH O&M policy and Exhibit A as well. Will, is that good that way? I want to make sure that's included in there. We have the policy,
Policy is defined earlier in the resolution.
including the Exhibit A's?
Well, that is the Exhibit A.
Okay.
You're talking about the schedules that are at the end?
Yeah, the only thing it says pages 1 through 5, and it doesn't say 6. Okay, so if you say it's done, then I'll withdraw that motion to add that to it. Okay? Sounds good. Okay, on the motion. I move.
I'll second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, recognition of the public.
Comments from the public, yes?
Pardon, sir?
Comments from the public?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Just state your name for the record, please.
How you doing? I'm Dennis Santucci of 5 Shady Lane, Brewster, New York. I'm a taxpayer, resident, and a small business owner. I'd like to know why this board has taken we had a major file from an attorney's back in the spring, and the board has just put it on the shelf and never recognized it. That's number one. I want to know why the town attorney left work early today to go represent someone at 7 Shady Lane, and you gotta excuse me, I've been painting a fence all day, but on the back of 7 Shady Lane and 5 Shady Lane. Town attorney left work early today to go represent and talk to state troopers at 7 Shady Lane. Is he working as town attorney, or is he working as a private attorney? Number two. Number three, why the building inspector came down 5 Shady Lane, they came down Shady Lane, which is a private road, and when I went out to my end of my driveway at about 2 o'clock this afternoon, town attorney was there about 4 o'clock this afternoon. When I went out to the end of my driveway and I said, Mike, why are you here? He said, I'm just visiting. I've been getting violations after violations for all kinds of complaints, regrading, whatever. We've proven the town building department wrong every single time. Right? Meanwhile, the neighboring property has a racetrack, and the town attorney has a letter that says that it validates the racetrack, which I'd like to know how one person can give a letter and validate an illegal racetrack in the backyard, motocross track. There's jumps of 20 feet high, there's a watchtower, there's all kinds of grading. There's recently been a violation issued at 7 Shady Lane for the southerly portion of the property. The property's been, there's jumps on the northerly portion, southerly portion, and the westerly portion. Where's his septic fails? Where's all this, the well? Right? I've been beaten up by the town. The town is getting themselves, Tony knows, the town is getting, and I hope that now that the public's gonna know, the town is setting themselves for a major civil lawsuit. I feel like I'm the guy in the back of the bus that you have to sit on the back of the bus and you have to go to the colored restroom, all right? Because of this town. I've been a contractor and a very good citizen for the last 50 years, right? Any town I go to, I'm respected. In the town of Southeast, I've been a resident for 3 years, and all I've been getting is violations, and they're not protecting me for the neighboring properties. Now, on 3 Shady Lane, when I complained to the building department about illegal kitchen renovations, headers, windows being changed, Mike went to the 3 Shady Lane, they said, and he had a look, and all he said was, when you get a chance, come on down and get a permit. He didn't issue not one violation. On my property, I have 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 violations. On a regular, I get a violation. When Willis Stevens' car is sitting at 7 Shady Lane getting repaired, they say, well, he's my friend, and he's working on the car because Eric Heinecke's my friend, all right? Well, meanwhile, is he working as town attorney, or is he working as a private attorney? Is he getting consideration for working on that car, or is he not? There's too many questions. When you guys hired Joe DiParlo to work on this case, to see what was going on with 3, 5, and 7 Shady Lane, and 1 Shady Lane, well, Joe was accompanied by Will Stevens and was shown, well, this is the racetrack, this is this, this is the other thing. Right? It's all in it. It's unequal enforcement, and this board has been doing absolutely nothing to help me. I would like a response in writing sent to Hogan and Rossi, care of Mike Lagori, and thank you very much.
Can you provide us with all those so-called questions you have there, sir?
I just said it's on public record.
Sir, I am asking you this evening to provide us with documentation of the questions you did. We're not going to go back and transpose this. You've been doing this for quite some time.
I'll have Hogan send you a
And
report.
your attorney has done this on numerous occasions. Our building department has been in touch with you on numerous occasions. You have violations, yes. You evidently are responding, not responding to them. Put whatever you want in writing, and we will answer your question.
You know what?
And I want to say one
There's a
thing.
file that's about this thick. It came out in March from another attorney to this board, and this board took it and put it on a shelf, right? You have documentation. You know what I'm looking for. Respond to it. And you know what else? I would really like if this board could do an ethics charges against Mr. Will Stevens and
Sir,
against the
you're out
town
of order.
attorney. This board's
Mr. Santucci,
obligation
you are
is
out of order.
ethics
You are
against the
out
town.
of order, Mr. Santucci, you're out of order. If
Why
you
is
have,
that?
if you
It's
have
public
any-
comment.
if- Well, now you're making accusations, you're not making public comment.
Can
If
you guys have an ethics board against
No, no,
Mr. Will
you-
Stevens
that's
and Mr. Levine?
Request it,
Yeah.
request
We'll
it.
put it in writing.
Don't be a big shot, come
We'll
up
put
here
it
and
in
put it on
writing formally to the
TV.
board. We requested a lot of things to the board, and the board put it on a shelf.
Sir, when
It's
you
time to
request things to the
respond,
board,
sir.
there are,
Sir, it's time to respond.
no, you know what, maybe not.
Well, can I
Okay,
just, can I,
very
can I
good.
just,
Thank you.
can I just interject right now? You have an attorney representing you, Hogan and Rossi by Mike Lagori. We have attorneys represent us, and what I would prefer at this point, because it sounds like we're running into a lot of legal questions, and I appreciate your coming and airing your concerns, et cetera, but what I'd like to say is that you're represented by able counsel. At this point in time, I would ask that the board defer to able counsel for Mr. Santucci and also for the town of Southeast, and then proceed from there. That's what I would ask respectfully.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the public? Town board members? I just want to read one thing briefly from Metro North, and that's the replacement of Prospect Hill Bridge Road. And this is dated November 25th of 2015. Dear Supervisor Hay, I am writing to provide an update on the replacement of Prospect Hill Road Bridge. As I previously indicated, full funding for design and construction of a new bridge has been secured under the 2010-2014 MTA Capital Program. Since I last wrote you in June, Metro North has awarded a design contract, and we had our official kickoff meeting with the designer on October 19th. Site and field investigations work is now underway, including the site survey, subsurface environmental investigations. This phase will be followed by a bridge replacement report. In spring 2016, we'll be ready to provide a project update at work session of the Southeast Town Board. At that time, we will have reached preliminary design at the 10% design level and would have details on the configuration of the new bridge, which we would share with the board. It is anticipated that during preliminary design will be determined whether property easements and/or acquisitions will be required in order to construct a new bridge and approaches. We respectfully request the town's assistance in order to obtain any necessary agreements in a timely manner. As part of our outreach, Metro North will hold a public informational session during the design phase and another public informational session prior to the start of construction. Construction is anticipated to begin in March 2017 with approximately a 24-month schedule. I will continue to keep you informed of the progress. So the bridge was closed possibly about 7 years ago for 6 months, is moving along. I just be starting my second term, which lasts for 4 years, and maybe at the end of that term, the bridge might be done. That'll be 11 years.
We'll have a party.
Have a party.
Ribbon cutting.
And just for the record, Mr. Stevens is the town attorney, and he also is a private citizen as well. He's not bound by any hours that he performs here. He's here this evening. He participates in all the things required to him by contract. And I think the gentleman spoke was out of line, but what are you going to do? We will look into his situation. Any other board member? I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to close tonight's meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.